A report by Henley and Partners and New World Wealth suggests that wealthy individuals from the African continent are looking to relocate to new countries, citing a lack in confidence. So far, it is expected that 88,000 millionaires will relocate, which is 22,000 fewer than in 2019. We're now joined by Chris Bishop, journalist and the founding editor of Billionaire Tomorrow, someone who knows our billionaires quite well on the African continent and has even penned a book on it. Chris, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Maybe let's start with setting the scene in terms of what we need to understand about the continent's billionaires.
I find it very difficult to hear you at the moment. Actually speaking to you from the Institute of Directors in Pall Mall in the heart of London, a place where actually many of these billionaire types hang out. But I think what you're asking me is, are high net worth billionaires leaving the continent to come to the Northern Hemisphere because of the hard times? I think that the main point is that you'd be not surprised to hear. I mean, I've written a book, as you know, a couple of books on these kind of individuals, is that a lot of them already have multiple homes all over the world. And particularly in London, there are a lot of, I can give you some examples later, but there are a lot of these individuals who already have set up and they've got investments and they've got second, third and fourth homes in other countries in the Northern Hemisphere.
What are some of their reasons for setting up shop in different countries outside of the business aspect, right? Especially when you take a look at perhaps infrastructure in some of the countries on the continent. Is that a factor that drives Africa's billionaires out?
Well, I think, if you look at a lot of the serious billionaires on the continent, I'll give you an example. Abdul Samad Rabiu, the cement king of Nigeria. He's got we were just talking about it just now with a colleague here in the Institute of Directors. He's got an entire street in Kensington, which is, as you know, one of the most plush areas of London, worth millions of pounds. And that's where he spends a lot of time. A lot of these, they're all international, they're global business people. A lot of people like Rabiu, they have clients, they have meetings in Europe and in London, and so a lot of them spend a lot of their time here anyway, away from Africa, even though Africa is still obviously the core of their wealth and business.
Seeing that Africa is the core of their wealth and business, how much are they pumping back in developing the continent?
Well, Rabiu is a good example. He puts quite a lot of money into different foundations. Very recently, he was funding an international broadcaster to do a series on entrepreneurs in the continent, which was obviously not only just putting a bit of money back in terms of TV, but also doing those stories and encouraging people to get involved as entrepreneurs in the continent, which I still believe, from my time back on Forbes Africa, that it's the future of the continent. And I think that, people like him, Rabiu in particular, you look at Closer to Home Education Trust, where he puts a lot of money into educating people. So a lot of the billionaires on the quiet, they don't always publicize it, are putting quite a lot of money back into the continent.
So this report, the Africa Wealth Report, suggests that some of the high net worth individuals were deserting countries they had lost confidence in on the African continent. And so in trying to understand the DNA or what makes Africa's billionaires tick, when they do leave the African continent, why is it a concern? Why are we talking about this right now, right? Why are we highlighting that they are leaving the continent? Is that because of a fear of them taking away their investments? You just mentioned that there are some who not only give back to the continent, but their business is here.
I don't think it does. If you understand, a lot of these billionaires operate by remote control, if you like. If you look at like one of the youngest billionaires on the continent. I've written about Mohammed Duji. I mean, his business, his family business, is worth an absolute fortune, worth billions of dollars, is in Tanzania. Very much so. It's not going anywhere, but he spends a lot of his time now with his family in Dubai, and he comes back and forth to Tanzania. But obviously, a lot of that business is by remote control. So essentially, that's the way that international capital is these days. You can, especially with the kind of technology that we're using now, as this moment, is the fact that you can be anywhere and you can still have your business and you can still run your business. And I think that a lot of the billionaires have been doing this for years. I don't think that it's anything new that people are moving out. A lot of people are spending time in other parts of the world. They've got luxury homes there. I mean, I know one particular billionaire from Uganda who's actually building a house in London, his own sort of possible retirement home. So it's quite a common thing.
What's the appeal in London? You mentioned a little bit earlier on that you will share some examples of billionaires who are based there.
Well, yeah, I was talking about Rabiu, and I mentioned about this other Ugandan billionaire who is building a home here. But yeah, I mean, you'll find most of the top big in African business. They've got a second home here, and in other countries in the world. But ultimately, there is that feeling of not putting all your eggs in one basket. Spreading the risk. And again, we're talking about people who've got billions upon billions in personal wealth. They can afford it. They can afford to have other homes. They can afford to have bases in other countries. And you think about it in terms of if you're doing business here in London and you're from the continent, it's much better to get a car from your private home in one of the plush districts of the city rather than staying in the Holiday Inn and getting an Uber. That's the kind of level that the big names are.
What are some of the businesses? We know about oil in Nigeria, but what other kind of businesses are they into?
Well, there's all manner of businesses that are making money. I mean, I think the next generation, obviously, you look at the big ones, you've got Dangote, he's with commodities and cement, Rabiu's cement. You've got mining in South Africa, so most of the big names are still involved in that. But I think the next wave which is quite exciting, of millionaires and billionaires is going to come from fintech, which is a lot of it's coming out of West Africa at the moment. I mean, companies like Future Africa, Flutterwave, those kind of companies have forged ahead and picked up solutions for moving money across the continent, which they saw as one of the great weaknesses of the continent, in the fact that people, were earning money outside the continent, wanting to send it back, remittances from the diaspora, and there's a huge market there, and I think it's only half untapped. I mean, names you should watch out for is people like Ian Abuyeji. He's big in West Africa. A guy called Sangudele from Ghana. I mean, he's big in investment at the moment. And somebody I'm going to interview tomorrow, actually, Rebecca Inonchong. She's the fintech queen of West Africa, coming out of Cameroon. So, I mean, these are new people who are going to be forging a path.
Very interesting. We'll look forward to it. Thank you very much, Chris Bishop, Billionaire Tomorrow founding editor.